South Africa. Just the name can bring a lot to mind. Beautiful landscapes, incredible wildlife, a complex history. And at the heart of that history is apartheid. It wasn't just a system of laws, it was a deep, painful wound inflicted on the soul of the nation. But let us be honest, apartheid was done in the West and in places like Australia by the same people. And it is still practiced to this day. Don't be fooled. To steal another man's land, then cry wolves when they try to reclaim it, then say that two wrongs don't make a right while continuing to hold on to the stolen land is pure evil. Apartheid was an attempt to permanently engineer a society of inequality, a project of breathtaking audacity and cruelty that some believed ended, but its echoes. In my opinion, apartheid has become universal. Colonization has become universal. The architects of apartheid have become meticulous in their divisive craft. They didn't just draw lines on maps, they drew lines in minds, in hearts. Did it ever stop? Not really. They simply changed appearance and made it more subtle while they continued to maintain rulership of the land and people. Communities that had coexisted, sometimes for generations, were forcibly separated. I'm not referring to white and black people. It was never really a peaceful union between white and black in South Africa. It was always Massa and his workers. And it still is. People were categorized, labeled, and then treated according to those arbitrary labels. The system was designed to make one group feel powerful and entitled, while another was systematically disempowered and dehumanized. It was a daily, grinding oppression that became the very fabric of life for millions. Even though the legal structures of apartheid were dismantled in the early 1990s, the social and economic architecture proved far more resilient. You can tear down a sign, but how do you tear down prejudice ingrained over generations? How do you instantly equalize wealth when one group had all the advantages for so long? And they still do. In fact, the gap between the rich and the poor only increased. The legacy is seen in the geography of our cities, still largely divided. It's seen in the economic disparities that starkly follow racial lines. It's in the mistrust that can flare up, a phantom pain from that old wound. So when we talk about South Africa today, we're talking about a nation still grappling with these deep-seated consequences, trying to build a truly new country on foundations that are still in places shaky from the past. This historical context is not just a backdrop, it's the very stage on which current South African politics plays out. Every debate, every election, every policy discussion is infused with the memories and realities of this divided past. The quest for equality, for justice, for a fair share of the nation's wealth, these are not abstract ideals, but urgent necessities born from decades of systematic inequality, and it will never change until the Black South Africans change it. Understanding this is key to understanding the complexities of modern South Africa, including the sometimes surprising political alliances and the intense debates that continue to shape its journey. Now, let's step into the present, or at least the very recent past. South Africa's political scene is, well, never boring. President Cyril Ramaphosa, a key figure in the anti-apartheid struggle and a chief negotiator for a democratic South Africa, now leads a country facing enormous challenges. We're talking high unemployment, a struggling economy, and the ever-present shadow of corruption. His party, the African National Congress, ANC, the liberation movement that brought down apartheid, now finds itself governing in a coalition, a government of national unity, GNU, because election results haven't been as strong as they once were. This means compromise, sometimes with parties that have very different ideas about the future, a complex dance of power and pragmatism. One of the more talked about dynamics is the apparent support President Ramaphosa receives from some segments of the white South African population. This might seem counterintuitive to some, given the ANC's historical mandate to dismantle white minority rule and address its legacies. Why would a portion of the group that benefited from the old system back a leader from the party that overthrew apartheid? Well, politics, like life, is complicated. Some white South Africans view Cyril Ramaphosa as a figure of stability, a pragmatic leader who understands business and may steer the country away from more radical policies. They believe that they can hold off significant changes long enough to retain their land, hoping to regain political power with someone from their own group in the future. They recognize that President Ramaphosa has good intentions and they want to take full advantage of it. Mr. President, these guys are not your friends. They view him as the best option among a group of less appealing choices, someone who can maintain order and protect their economic interests. They do not favor Ramaphosa. If they had the numbers, they would replace him with a white counterpart in an instant. They only support him because he is their best choice. Understand that support may not always arise from a complete alignment of values or a genuine acceptance of transformative ideals. President Ramaphosa must understand their true intentions, which they will never disclose. For them, it could be a strategic calculation. As reported around May 2025, some white South Africans apparently indicated that Ramaphosa could be beneficial for their agenda, which led to a softening of criticism from figures like Donald Trump, who had previously been quite critical. This suggests a belief that Ramaphosa, perhaps constrained by economic realities or the need for investment, might be less aggressive on issues like land reform or wealth redistribution than other political factions. It's a case of choosing the perceived lesser risk, or the leader they believe they can best influence or who will least disrupt their existing advantages. This complicated relationship highlights the ongoing realignment of South Africa's political landscape. The old, stark lines of racial solidarity in politics are becoming more blurred, replaced by a more complex interplay of class, economic interest, and strategic positioning. It's a sign of a maturing, if sometimes messy, democracy, where alliances can be fluid and motivations multifaceted. The support for Ramaphosa from some white quarters is less about a simple change of heart and more about a pragmatic assessment of who is best positioned to safeguard their interests in a country still finding its way. It's a chessboard where every player is thinking several moves ahead, trying to secure their position in a constantly shifting game. The land debate in South Africa isn't just about soil and acres. It's about justice, identity, and economic opportunity. For generations, the majority of the population was denied the right to own land in most of the country. This historic injustice is a wound that continues to fester, contributing to inequality and social instability. Addressing it fairly and effectively is not just a political promise. It's a fundamental requirement for building a truly reconciled and prosperous nation. The process needs to be transparent, constitutional, and aimed at genuinely empowering those who are dispossessed, while also ensuring food security and economic stability. It's a tightrope walk, no doubt, but one that South Africa must navigate successfully. The spread of misinformation, like the false white genocide narrative, is incredibly damaging precisely because it seeks to derail this delicate process. It attempts to reframe a legitimate quest for historical redress as an act of aggression or racial revenge. This plays into the hands of those who want to maintain the status quo of inequality or those who seek to exploit divisions for political gain, both domestically and internationally, ordinary South Africans who live with the daily realities of the country's challenges and opportunities need to be particularly wary of these divisive narratives. The struggle against apartheid was a fight for non-racial democracy, and that principle is still crucial today. However, how can we achieve this if the injustices of the past are not addressed? It is impossible to create a truly fair South Africa without rectifying the wrongs that have occurred in history. True progress lies in Black South Africans finally controlling most of the land and resources and owning most of the major businesses in their country. True progress comes with them becoming the lenders and not only borrowers. True progress lies in Africa not having to depend on the white minority of the land. It is a lie that ordinary South Africans, black, white, Indian, and colored, share a common destiny. Sure, they may have some common ground, but the goal is not the same. White South Africans does not want black South Africans to be equal with them or to be able to compete with them. The challenges of poverty, unemployment, crime, and corruption affect everyone, though often in disproportionate ways. Overcoming these requires Black South Africans to wake up and stop being pawns in another people's chess game. We are not in heaven. Mankind is selfish and cruel. The struggle against apartheid was a fight for a non-racial democracy, and that principle remains essential today. However, how can we achieve this if we do not address past injustices? The road ahead for South Africa is undoubtedly complex, filled with economic challenges and social tensions. However, rushing forward while ignoring the past and failing to address the issue of returning what was stolen is not the solution. You cannot advocate for peace, unity, and love for everyone while clinging to stolen property. It is universally understood that it is wrong to take another person's land or generational wealth only to claim that it's for your grandchildren. Claiming that two wrongs don't make a right is misguided. Continuing to hold on to stolen land only perpetuates the injustice against the people from whom it was taken. The dream of a truly united, equitable, and prosperous nation, the dream that inspired the struggle against apartheid, is still worth fighting for, especially as we seek to redress historical injustices regarding land ownership. Black South Africans should not have to buy back the land that was stolen from them. Imagine if someone stole your car, but then forced you to pay them for it. It's absurd, and we all understand that. How can we expect to be treated with respect when we approach such a situation with weakness? I recognize there is fear involved, and believe me, they are aware of that fear. If it wasn't so, they would have already returned the land without a struggle. They tell you that unity also requires honest conversation, a commitment to truth, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of building bridges across old divides, ensuring that the future is not just a repetition of the past with different actors. Sure, there is some truth to that, but this is not heaven. Absolute unity comes from Black South Africans becoming just as powerful as white South Africans because they only respect strength. They will never respect you if you are weaker and poorer than them. So don't allow the fake cries of peace to fool you. History has taught us over and over that the world and humanity don't function like that.